What if I told you that every single night while you sleep, your brain runs a biological self-cleaning cycle, washing away the exact toxic proteins linked to memory loss, cognitive decline, and Alzheimer's disease? And what if the wrong evening routine, or no routine at all, was quietly shutting that system down? Here's what's even more striking. This isn't a hypothesis. This isn't fringe science. In October 2024, researchers at Oregon Health and Science University used live imaging during neurosurgery to confirm, for the very first time in human subjects, the existence of the brain's own internal waste clearance network, a system we now call the glymphatic system. And what drives it? Deep, restorative sleep. The kind of sleep most people over 60 are simply not getting enough of. So let me ask you something important. Are you waking up foggy? Are you forgetting names, losing your train of thought, or just feeling like your brain isn't quite as sharp as it used to be? Most people accept this as an inevitable part of aging. They write it off. They say, I'm just getting older. But the science says something very different. It says the brain has remarkable regenerative power even in your 70s and 80s if you give it the right conditions to do its work. And one of the most underestimated, least talked about windows for brain restoration is the 30 to 60 minutes before you go to sleep. What you drink in that window matters enormously, not because of some wellness trend or marketing campaign, but because of deep, well-documented physiology. Certain compounds found in specific natural beverages can directly support the hormonal environment your brain needs for deep sleep, lower the inflammatory burden that disrupts memory consolidation, and feed the very biological machinery that cleans your brain while you rest. Tonight, we are going to talk about 3 of the most scientifically compelling drinks that seniors can consume before bedtime. These are not gimmicks. These are not expensive supplements in a fancy package. These are real, accessible, evidence-backed tools that work by optimizing your cortisol rhythm, boosting melatonin production, reducing neuroinflammation, and enhancing the glymphatic clearance that your brain desperately needs every single night. Before we get into the drinks themselves, let me lay out the 6 core insights that we're going to unpack together, because understanding the why is what makes the how actually stick. First, your brain has a self-cleaning system that only activates during deep sleep, and most seniors aren't reaching that stage. Second, cortisol, the stress hormone, is the #1 enemy of restorative sleep in older adults, and specific plant compounds can regulate it naturally. Third, melatonin production declines sharply after age 60, but certain foods can support and restore that rhythm. Fourth, neuroinflammation silently erodes memory and focus, and natural anti-inflammatory beverages consumed at night work while you sleep. Fifth, the glymphatic system depends on hydration and specific nutrients to function efficiently, and most people are mildly dehydrated by bedtime. Sixth, the timing of these drinks approximately 30 to 60 minutes before sleep is just as important as the drinks themselves. Let's start with the biology, because once you understand what's actually happening in your body every night, you will never look at your evening routine the same way again. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you sleep. Imagine your brain is a busy city. All day long, cars are driving through the streets, neurons are firing, chemicals are being released, waste products are accumulating. By the end of the day, that city is congested. There's metabolic debris everywhere. Old proteins, cellular waste, amyloid fragments, the very same substances that scientists now understand form the plaques and tangles associated with Alzheimer's disease. Now, every healthy city has a sanitation system. The brain's version of that sanitation system is the glymphatic network, a series of channels running alongside the brain's blood vessels, through which cerebrospinal fluid flows like a slow, powerful river, washing that debris out of the brain and into the body's broader detoxification pathways. Here's the critical part. This river doesn't run during the day. Research published in the journal Current Opinion in Physiology shows that glymphatic activity is low during wakefulness and surges dramatically during deep, natural sleep. Think of it like a city that can only run its cleaning trucks at night when the roads are quiet. The deeper the sleep, the more efficient the cleaning. The more interrupted or shallow the sleep, which is precisely what happens with age, with stress, with hormone dysregulation, the less cleaning gets done. And what happens when the brain sanitation system is chronically underperforming? Waste accumulates. Amyloid builds up, neuroinflammation rises. Over time, memory falters, thinking becomes slower. The very fog that most people attribute to just getting older is, in many cases, the consequence of a poorly functioning glymphatic system and a fixable one. A 2024 clinical study published as a preprint on the medical research server medRxiv involving a randomized crossover trial showed that overnight glymphatic clearance actively removes Alzheimer's biomarkers, including amyloid beta and tau, from the brain into the bloodstream during sleep. What this means in plain language is this: while you sleep deeply, your brain is literally exporting the proteins associated with cognitive decline. Every night is a biological opportunity for your brain to clean house. The question is whether you are giving it the conditions to do so. Seniors face a particular challenge here. The quality of deep sleep, specifically what's called slow wave sleep or stage 3 NREM sleep, declines significantly with age. This is the stage where glymphatic activity peaks. It's also the stage where memory consolidation happens, where the experiences and information you encountered during the day get transferred into long-term storage. This is why sleep quality, not just duration, is the cornerstone of cognitive health in aging. And this is where our 3 drinks come in. Before we dive deeper, I want to connect with our community. If you're new here, welcome to BioBytes YouTube channel, where we break down health science into actionable strategies. We're building an amazing global community of health-conscious individuals, and we'd love for you to join us. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss our evidence-based content. And I'm genuinely curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments. We have viewers spanning 6 continents, and seeing our international community grow is incredibly inspiring. Your engagement keeps us motivated to research and create content that truly serves you. Now let's talk about the first drink, and it's one that has been quietly hiding in your grocery store all along. Tart cherry juice. Not regular cherry juice. Not cherry-flavored anything. We're talking specifically about Montmorency tart cherry juice pressed from Prunus cerasus. And the research behind this bright red liquid is genuinely remarkable for what it does to sleep biology and brain health in older adults. Here's what the research shows. A controlled clinical study examining older adults with insomnia found that those who consumed tart cherry juice experienced an increase in total sleep time of up to 84 minutes compared to placebo. Let that sink in: 84 additional minutes of sleep from a natural food source. Sleep efficiency, a measure of how effectively your body uses the time spent in bed, improved from approximately 77% to 84%. This was not a questionnaire result. These were objective, measured outcomes. What makes tart cherries so biologically active? Let me explain this with a simple breakdown. Tart cherries contain a natural supply of melatonin, one of the very few food sources that provides physiologically meaningful quantities of this sleep hormone. They also contain tryptophan, the amino acid precursor to both serotonin and melatonin, which means they support your brain's own hormone production pathway rather than just delivering melatonin from the outside. And beyond that, tart cherries are extraordinarily rich in anthocyanins, the deep red plant pigments that function as powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant agents inside the brain itself. Why does this matter for seniors specifically? Because melatonin production naturally drops by as much as 70 to 80% between the ages of 20 and 70. The pineal gland, the small pine cone-shaped structure in your brain that produces melatonin, becomes less active as we age. Less melatonin means a disrupted circadian rhythm. A disrupted circadian rhythm means shallower sleep. Shallower sleep means less glymphatic activity. Less glymphatic activity means more brain waste accumulation overnight. This is the cascade that tart cherry juice directly intervenes in naturally and gently, without the grogginess associated with pharmaceutical sleep aids. A systematic review published in 2025, which evaluated 7 interventional studies on tart cherry consumption, found that the evidence supports significant improvements in sleep duration, sleep efficiency, and sleep onset latency. 3 of those 7 studies showed clear, measurable improvements in objective sleep metrics. This is not anecdotal. This is a body of converging evidence pointing to a simple, low-cost intervention that most people overlook. Here's the protocol. 8 ounces of pure, unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice, consumed approximately 30 to 45 minutes before bed. If you prefer, 2 tablespoons of tart cherry concentrate mixed into water produces a similar effect and is more cost-effective. If you have blood sugar concerns or are monitoring glucose, speak with your physician. Tart cherry juice does contain natural sugars, and it's worth being mindful of that. But for most seniors, this is a safe, food-based, elegant strategy for restoring the melatonin signaling that the aging brain desperately needs to reach its cleaning window. Now let's move to the second drink, one that has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years and is now being validated by rigorous modern science for both brain protection and sleep optimization. Golden milk, you may have heard of it, but I want you to understand what's actually happening in your body when you drink it, because the physiology is extraordinary. Golden milk is a warm beverage made by combining milk, dairy, or plant-based with turmeric, a small amount of black pepper, and optionally ginger, cinnamon, and a touch of honey. The active compound in turmeric is curcumin, and curcumin is one of the most extensively studied natural molecules for brain health and neuroinflammation. Here's the critical piece of biology that most people don't know. Curcumin can cross the blood-brain barrier. Most molecules cannot. The brain is protected by a highly selective filtration system that allows only specific substances through. Curcumin is one of the privileged few plant compounds that can pass through that barrier and exert its effects directly on brain tissue. What does it do there? Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain cells are like expensive electronic components, and neuroinflammation is like a low-grade electrical surge running through the system continuously, not enough to blow anything out all at once, but enough to cause chronic cumulative damage over years and decades. Curcumin acts like a surge protector. It interrupts that inflammatory signaling, reduces oxidative stress, and helps preserve the integrity of the neurons themselves. The research supporting this is compelling. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry examined the effects of bioavailable curcumin on memory performance in adults without dementia. Participants taking curcumin showed improvements in memory test performance of approximately 28% over 18 months, while those on placebo did not improve. Even more significantly, the curcumin group showed reduced accumulation of amyloid plaques and tau tangles, the exact proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease progression. Think about what that means. Not just symptom management, not just feeling a little sharper, measurable reductions in the structural changes associated with cognitive decline. This is brain protection at a biological level. But golden milk doesn't just protect the brain while you sleep, it also helps you get there. Warm milk, whether dairy or a fortified plant-based alternative, provides tryptophan and casein. Casein breaks down slowly and triggers gentle opioid-like calming signals in the brain. Tryptophan is converted into serotonin and then melatonin, feeding the same melatonin production pathway we discussed with tart cherries. Adding ginger and cinnamon provides further anti-inflammatory support, and cinnamon has been studied separately for its potential role in protecting specific brain proteins involved in neurodegenerative processes. The black pepper in golden milk is non-negotiable from a scientific standpoint. Curcumin alone has notoriously poor bioavailability, meaning your body struggles to absorb it efficiently. But piperine, the active compound in black pepper, enhances curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. 2,000%. A pinch of black pepper is the difference between golden milk being mildly beneficial and powerfully therapeutic. The protocol here is simple. Warm 1 cup of your preferred milk. Add half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon, a small piece of grated ginger, or a pinch of ginger powder, a tiny pinch of black pepper, and sweeten lightly with raw honey if needed. Consume this 30 to 45 minutes before bed when the warm temperature itself will begin to signal your nervous system toward relaxation. Research shows that curcumin also supports brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF, a protein that promotes the survival and growth of neurons. Golden milk, consumed consistently at night, is essentially a slow, nightly investment in the structural integrity of your brain. Now we arrive at the third drink, and this one works through a fundamentally different mechanism than the first two. Because while tart cherry juice restores melatonin production and golden milk reduces neuroinflammation, our third drink targets the single most disruptive force standing between most seniors and deep restorative sleep, elevated cortisol, and ashwagandha and chamomile nighttime tea. Let me explain why this combination is so powerful, beginning with the hormone that is quietly destroying sleep quality for millions of older adults. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. It's produced by the adrenal glands and follows a natural 24-hour rhythm. In a healthy person, cortisol peaks in the morning. It's what helps you wake up, feel alert, and mobilize energy, and then it steadily declines throughout the day, reaching its lowest point at night to allow deep sleep to occur. This natural arc is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is the hormonal foundation of your sleep-wake cycle. Here's what's really going on inside the body of many older adults. This rhythm is disrupted. Chronic stress from pain, from loneliness, from financial concerns, from the accumulated weight of life keeps cortisol elevated into the evening hours. Instead of that hormone declining smoothly as the sun goes down, it stays elevated. And elevated evening cortisol directly suppresses melatonin production, keeps the nervous system in a state of low-grade alertness, prevents the brain from transitioning into slow-wave sleep, and critically inhibits the glymphatic system from running its nightly cleaning cycle. This is not a minor issue. A 2024 randomized controlled trial published in the journal Nutrients found that adults experiencing chronic stress who supplemented with standardized ashwagandha root extract showed significant reductions in serum cortisol and a measurable improvement in their stress response profile. And multiple trials specifically in older adults, including a notable study in adults aged 65 to 80, found that ashwagandha supplementation produced improvements in sleep quality, increased mental alertness upon waking, and better quality of life scores. A more recent 12-week trial in adults with mild cognitive impairment confirmed enhancements in both working memory and general memory with standardized ashwagandha extract. Here's what makes ashwagandha unique among adaptogenic herbs. Its active compounds with analytes appear to modulate GABA receptors in the brain. GABA is your primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. Think of it as the brain's off switch. When GABA signaling is robust, the nervous system quiets, muscle tension decreases, anxious thought patterns slow down, and the body can transition into sleep. Ashwagandha supports this GABA pathway without the dependency and side effects of pharmaceutical benzodiazepines, and it does so while simultaneously lowering cortisol at the systemic level. Chamomile works through a related but distinct mechanism. Apigenin, the primary bioactive compound in chamomile, also binds to GABA-A receptors in the brain, producing gentle sedative effects. Chamomile tea has been used for centuries as a sleep aid, and modern pharmacology has confirmed exactly why it works. When you combine chamomile with ashwagandha, you're creating a layered, multi-pathway intervention against the cortisol and stress pattern that robs seniors of their deepest sleep. Before we dive deeper, let me check in with you, as I always love to do at this point in our discussion. This is where the science really starts to become personal. If you've ever laid in bed exhausted but unable to quiet your mind, if you've ever woken at 2 or 3 in the morning with your thoughts racing, that is elevated cortisol. That is the stress response system stuck in the on position. And the fact that it's so common among seniors doesn't mean it's inevitable. It means it's addressable. Tonight with a simple cup of tea. The protocol? Steep 1 chamomile tea bag or 1 teaspoon of dried chamomile flowers in 8 ounces of hot water for 5 to 7 minutes. Add half a teaspoon of ashwagandha root powder, or open 1 400 to 600 milligram capsule of standardized KSM 66 ashwagandha extract and stir the contents into your tea. Add a small drizzle of raw honey if desired. Drink this 30 to 60 minutes before bed. The warmth of the tea activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, while the apigenin and ashwagandha compounds begin their cortisol modulating, GABA supporting work. This is functional, pharmacologically grounded relaxation delivered in a teacup. Now let's bring this all together and talk about how these three drinks work as a system, because the real power is not in any one of them individually, but in understanding how they each address a different biological lever for brain health and aging. The glymphatic system, as we discussed, is your brain's nightly sanitation service. It needs three things to function optimally. First, it needs you to reach deep, slow-wave sleep because glymphatic flow surges during this stage and is minimal during lighter sleep. Second, it needs adequate hydration because cerebrospinal fluid is water-based, and mild nighttime dehydration impairs its circulation through the brain's cleaning channels. Third, it needs low inflammation because neuroinflammation increases the brain's metabolic debris burden and simultaneously impairs the clearance pathways. Here is where our three drinks map perfectly onto these three needs. Tart cherry juice, through its melatonin and tryptophan content, supports the hormonal signaling that drives you into deep sleep, directly feeding glymphatic activation. Golden milk, through curcumin and its anti-inflammatory compounds, reduces the neuroinflammatory burden and protects the neural structures the glymphatic system is working to preserve. And the ashwagandha chamomile tea lowers evening cortisol, quiets the nervous system, and ensures you can actually transition out of light sleep into the restorative slow-wave stages where all this brain-cleaning magic happens. Think of it this way. Tart cherry juice is the signal. Golden milk is the shield. Ashwagandha chamomile tea is the switch that turns off the noise. Used together, not all in the same glass, but incorporated into a thoughtful pre-sleep routine, these three drinks create an environment in which your brain can do its best biological work while you rest. There are a few additional principles worth weaving into your bedtime protocol alongside these drinks. Timing matters. Aim to consume your chosen drink or drinks between 30 and 60 minutes before your target sleep time. Hydration before this window is important. Aim for consistent water intake throughout the day so that your cerebrospinal fluid volume is adequate by bedtime. Sleep position also has a role. Research has suggested that sleeping on your side may optimize glymphatic drainage compared to sleeping flat on your back, as it facilitates better cerebrospinal fluid flow patterns. And reducing exposure to artificial blue light in the evening from phones, tablets, and overhead lighting protects the melatonin production that tart cherries and golden milk are both working to support. The drinks work best when the environment around them supports the same biology. Let me also address something that comes up frequently, the question of consistency. None of these drinks are miracle cures that transform your brain overnight. What they are is a consistent physiological input that, over weeks and months, shifts the biological terrain of your aging brain in a meaningful and measurable direction. The curcumin in golden milk builds protective effects with sustained use. Ashwagandha's cortisol modulating properties compound over time. The improvement in sleep architecture from regular tart cherry juice consumption has been documented over study periods of 2 weeks, but the benefits to glymphatic function and long-term cognitive health accumulate over much longer timelines. This is not about quick fixes. This is about daily biological intelligence applied to the most important organ in your body. So here is where we land. Your brain is not passively deteriorating. It is working every single night to repair, consolidate, and clean itself. It has a sophisticated biological infrastructure for this purpose that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate through modern neuroscience. And you have the ability, starting tonight, to support that infrastructure in a real, measurable, science-grounded way. Drink 1. Tart cherry juice, 8 ounces of pure Montmorency tart cherry juice 30 to 45 minutes before bed to restore melatonin signaling and drive deeper, longer, more efficient sleep. Drink 2. Golden milk warm turmeric milk with black pepper and ginger to deliver curcumin across the blood-brain barrier, reduce neuroinflammation, and protect the neurons your glymphatic system is working to preserve. Drink 3. Ashwagandha and chamomile tea to quiet the cortisol response, activate GABA pathways, and create the calm neurological environment in which deep, restorative, brain-cleaning sleep can actually occur. These aren't supplements in isolation. These aren't hacks or shortcuts. These are nutritional tools that work with your body's own biology tools that the research is increasingly clear. Support memory, cognitive function, and long-term brain health in aging adults. Here's your challenge for tonight. Pick one of these 3 drinks. Just one. Make it. Drink it. Give it 2 weeks of consistency and pay attention to how you feel when you wake up. Is your mind clearer? Do you feel more rested? Do you notice any change in your ability to recall names, remember conversations, or stay focused through the morning? Your body gives feedback when you give it the right inputs. The key is being present enough to notice. Aging does not have to mean cognitive decline. Memory loss is not the inevitable price of living a long life. What you do in the quiet hours before sleep, in that simple, ordinary window between waking and dreaming, has more influence over your brain's long-term health than most people ever realize. Science is confirming what traditional medicine has whispered for centuries. The evening matters. How you prepare for sleep matters. And what you put in your body in that preparation matters deeply. If this video added value to your understanding of how to protect and nourish your aging brain, please take a moment to like the video. It tells us that this kind of evidence-based content is what you want more of, and it helps us reach others who need it. Subscribe to BioBites and join a growing global community of people who are serious about aging well, thinking clearly, and living fully. And share this with someone you care about: an aging parent, a friend going through cognitive changes, a partner who complains of poor sleep, because this information is too important to keep to yourself. We'll see you in the next one.